Tonight's talk is about rank in martial arts. And I may have talked about this once for meditation a long time ago, but last weekend, Doug knows because he was here. Was it last weekend?
For Chris?
Yeah. 2 weekends ago. It seemed like just yesterday. Yeah, it was 2 weekends ago. We did Chris's Red Sash test, and some of you guys have seen Chris strutting around here with his shiny new Red Sash. And it's the first Red Sash test that we've ever had here. And Doug was allowed to be there because he's a second degree Red Sash. I let the second green sashes come because I just needed more people to help test Chris. I usually say to beat him up, but there wasn't a lot of anybody beating Chris up. He's pretty good. And it was intense. It was a long test. It was a hard test. But it made me think about rank. Because I saw one day after Chris put on his sash for the first time and he showed up here, the kids were leaving and there were still some kids in the lobby, and he puts on his sash and the kids are like, oh, what is that? It's not a red sash. Because we don't have red sashes in the kids class yet, and they've never seen an adult unless they've seen Doug or Steph come in and visit. And so it's like a huge deal. And honestly, it is. It's a big deal even for me. Because even though I've taken my own Red Sash test and I've been part of other Red Sash tests, I've never given somebody else a Red Sash test. And there's something about it that is a big deal, a really big deal. For Chris to practice for almost 7 years and just keep coming, get really good, and get to the point where I think this guy is good enough to be my first Red Sash and to set the bar where everyone else is going to be at that level. And there's no question that like rank has some kind of meaning and has some kind of importance. But it is also very true to say that most people place way too much importance on it. And most people, when they practice martial arts, many people at least, that is actually the whole reason why they're practicing, is because they're thinking about getting to the next rank. And I can't tell you how many people come in here and ask me, how long is it going to take me to get to Black Sash? How long is it going to take me to get my black belt? And I have to correct them and say, you're not going to get a black belt, you get a Black Sash. And then I have to say, you're probably never going to get a Black Sash either. It takes way longer than you think, and way more than you think. And honestly, in this school, getting like a green sash is the equivalent of getting a black sash in many styles and in most schools. The vast majority of schools, it only takes a couple of years to get it. And that should make you think like, wait a minute. There's a big difference between different styles and different schools in what it means to have a certain rank, and it's absolutely true. There's not as big of a difference within this school. It means pretty much the same thing. If you got a yellow sash, it means that you are at least up to this level of excellence. And then if you get to a green sash, it means you're that much better. If you get to a red sash, it means you're really, really good. If you get to a second red, it means you went through hell. If you get to a black sash, it means that you're just the most incredible martial artist ever. No, it just means that much more. But it is directly, what it means is directly proportional to what you have had to do in order to get to that rank. So first, it definitely comes down to time. And in many schools, it takes 4 years-ish, we'll say, to get to black belt. Some schools that are really serious, it takes 6 years to get to black belt. If that were the way that it was here, we would already have a ton of black belts in this school. But as you can see, we don't. It's not the way it is. So time, just time spent. And really, if you think about it, like how great can you get after 4 or 6 years? You can get pretty good, and you might even be able to get great at some stuff. But especially if you have such a massive curriculum like we do, and especially if there's an internal component and you're talking about really transforming yourself as a person through your practice, you really can't get that much in 4 to 6 years. You can't. And then it comes down to how much work have you put into it. So you can just show up for 6 years and not get that much out of it unless you're really like pouring yourself into every single class, unless you're actually trying to steal the knowledge from the teacher and from the senior students unless you're really trying to just like surrender fully to the process and be a sponge and soak up as much as you can. And then on some level, it obviously has to come down to how good are you? Like physically, are you skilled enough to be at this rank? And there is a lot that goes into that most of you should just not even be thinking about right now. But it's not this way in most schools, and that's unfortunate. But still, the concept of rank has in general, has some basic principles that apply across styles and across schools. So when I wrote the newsletter, which came out today, you guys should read it if you haven't yet. It starts with a quote from Kensho Furuya, who wrote Kodo, which is probably my #1 favorite martial arts book of all time. And he says, how long will it take to get a black belt? And he says the same thing. A lot of people ask him that question. And he says that it might take, it says, how do you get there? First, you find a competent teacher, and then you just go to work. And you go to work without worrying about how long it's going to take. And it might take 1 year, it might take 10 years. Most places you won't get a black belt in 1 year, but I guess it's possible in some places. 10 years, it's pretty good. And then he says it might never happen. And in fact, for most people who practice martial arts, and not even most people, the vast majority of people who practice will never get to black belt or black sash. And you've got to be okay with that. If you're not okay with it and you think like, this is my goal is to get to the black belt or the black sash, then you are really going to be at some point sad. And it's going to always have you in this frame of mind or this state of mind that is like, well, when's the next rank? When's the next test? How come I haven't tested yet? And then you'll start comparing yourself to other people. Well, they've been here for less time than me and they're already testing. What's going on? That's not fair. And all of this getting in your head is what causes many people to quit. And I have practiced with, I would venture hundreds of people who have quit because they finally recognize that either it's going to take them longer than they think, much longer, or they're never actually going to make it. And they quit. Which is ridiculous. So ridiculous. Because you can get a black belt. Like, what happens is we think we deserve it, or we think, how come I'm not getting it fast enough? It must be this teacher's fault or this school's fault or whatever. Or maybe I'm just terrible at martial arts. But all of that is ridiculous because the black belt itself, or the black sash itself, is just a piece of fabric. I mean, you can see mine that we put up on the case there, and it's a really nice black sash. But at the end of the day, it's like they bought the fabric and put it together and sewed the inscription on it, and that's it. And you can go buy a black sash or a black belt at a store or on Amazon for like $10. And if you just buy it for yourself, it's worth what you paid for it. It's probably worth less than you paid for it. But if you put X amount of time, X amount of effort in it, that becomes what it's worth. And if you look at like your white sash, a lot of you guys have white sash or something above that. In most schools, you walk in and they give it to you. They give you your white belt or your white sash with your uniform. If you practice in a style like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu where you wear a gi with the flaps, you have to wear the belt or your gi's just flapping open the whole time, and that's awkward. But in most styles, you just get that rank when you begin. We don't even do that here. We're that mean. We make you practice for months without a sash on at all. And then you have to test to get your white sash. And that throws a lot of people. They don't like that. And then just, to continue going down that path with the process of recognizing I want to be at this next level and I'm not there yet, and you have to be okay with it. And some people have the opposite opinion. In fact, some people who are about to take a second-degree yellow sash test, I've had to really talk to them multiple times to get them on board with taking this test because they are convinced that they are never going to be able to pass it. They think, I can't do that form, I can't remember it, it's terrible, I'm awful. And I just keep, working with them to get them to recognize, like, no, you can do this. You just have to get out of your own head and go to work and just make progress little by little by little, and that's it. And your rank on some level is just that. It is a physical manifestation that shows the time and effort that you've put in and the incremental process that you've made, or progress that you've made through that process, day after day, week, month, year after year, and eventually it adds up to enough. You take the test and you pass it, or you take the test and you fail and you try it again. But it is an opportunity, right? This whole process of thinking, like, how come I'm not there yet? Or thinking I'm not ready yet, or maybe I'll never be there yet. All of it is just an opportunity to work on yourself and work on the ego and recognize that all that I'm thinking about it, and all of that where, like, I get my new sash and I tie it on and I look at myself in the mirror like, yes, that's right, I am a white sash. Like, all of that is just something else to get over. And this is just all of what our practice is. It's bringing us face to face with the ego and recognizing this is something for me to deal with. This is something for me to go beyond. And on some level, of course, a higher rank means I've come more often or more times or more severely face to face with the ego and had to get over something or lots of things. And that's great. A lot of people think that rank in martial arts with the colored belts and sashes has been around forever, but it's not true. And this should help some people out there who are thinking like this is all about the rank. The rank is actually a fairly modern concept or invention. It was brought on by Jigoro Kano, who is the founder of judo. And before this, they would just basically have certificate. And it's like you just practice with this teacher and you are either the student or the teacher. And this is the way that it was for hundreds, 1,000+ years of martial arts. And then eventually, Jigoro Kano decided, like, we need some kind of way to set people apart by, their skill level and how long they've been here. And so then he came up with this idea. And at first was just 2 ranks. It was the white belt that you get when you start, and then it was the black belt. And that was it. And as you can imagine, you would start off with your white belt and you would just practice forever, and then eventually you would just get the black belt, or you would test for the black belt. And there was a lot of time in there where you would probably be thinking, am I ever going to make it? Like, you guys, we have it way harder here than it is in most schools because it can be like a year or 2 or more between tests. And we think, am I ever going to get to test again? Or, when do I have to test again? In most schools, it's like you take a test every month and you get another little scrape on your sash or your belt, and then it adds up to be the next rank eventually. But it's not the way that it used to be. It used to just be years and years. And eventually, the teacher would just decide, okay, this person's good enough. They're a black belt. And so that was too much for people, and they would quit. So then they added in the ranks in between, the different colored belts and sashes. And so you get the concept, I've talked about it before, of like the symbolism behind the rank going from white to black, from a light color to a dark color. And it is like literally the representation of the blood, sweat, and tears and the filth that you go through to practice martial arts over the years. And you start with this shiny new white belt or sash, and it is just as pristine as can be. You put it on the first time, and you've got this nice crisp knot, and it's like perfectly folded against you. And you look in the mirror, and you're like, this is it. I have arrived. And then you practice for a while, and it starts to get dingy, and like if you're wearing a sash here, it starts to crumple up, and it gets all these other weird folds and creases in it, and eventually it starts to feel like it's about to fall apart, and that's when you take the test for the next sash. So if you look at it like it was a belt, the belt didn't get as, it's not as flimsy as the sash, but it's the same idea. It would start to get dirty and grimy, and you would be sweating in class every day, and your gi would get nasty, but also your belt would get nasty. Your belt would start to get like yellow, and you would practice longer and longer, and it would get grosser and darker from all of the practice, and it would just get like to the next color and the next color, and you would just bleed, or somebody would bleed on you, and it would just eventually start to turn red, and then it just got to be all of the combination of all colors, and it was just like, looked like you dragged it behind your car for 10 years and it's black. And then my favorite thing about the belt is, you've seen Sensei Hurtseller's belt, right, Doug? You guys haven't yet, but Sensei Hurtseller's is a karate practitioner, studied for many, 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 many years, and his belt, his black belt, has turned basically completely white because he practiced so long and so hard in it that all the black dyed fabric fell off the whole belt, except there's just like a little bit on the end that's still black. You can tell that it's a black belt. And I love the symbolism there, where it's like I've practiced for so long that then I go back to feeling like a beginner, or I always try to keep this beginner's mind. And this is a really hard thing for people to do in martial arts and in lots of areas in life, right? We get to a certain level of expertise and we think, well, now I know this, right? You take your yellow sash test. Some of you guys just took it. And you think, well, now I tested on that front punch, so now when we do it in class, I don't have to think about it ever again. I already know it. I'm perfect at it. I've mastered the front punch. Until you like go to spar with somebody who's really good and you try to front punch them and they've disappeared. And you realize, wait a minute, my front punch still needs work. There's something there for me to keep improving on. And so if you can keep that beginner's mind, that attitude of, I am still always looking for something to improve on. It's like, my favorite analogy is to be like an infant. And if you take like a baby, everything is brand new and exciting to this kid. It's a toddler, and they're crawling around and they're looking, and it's like everything, the world is huge and everything is new and exciting, and you literally just give them like the crappiest, most boring toy. It's like a wood block, and it's the most amazing thing because you flip it over and it's got some other letter on it, and you flip it over here and there's a different letter, and you flip it back, there's the same letter, but it's still so exciting and brand new. And you watch this baby play with this thing like it's the most important, amazing thing and the only thing that could possibly matter to it in the world. And then as soon as it's time to go do something else, it's time to eat, dinner, then it's like, oh my God, this is so exciting, this food. It's so exciting that it gets all over the place. And that is like, not necessarily that I want you to get sloppy with your technique and get it all over the place, but to go after everything in practice and everything in life with that kind of attitude. And when people practice for a long enough time in martial arts, they get to a black belt or a black sash, and then they get what we call black sash eyes. And it's like I look at this person throwing a technique, and this actually happens to me sometimes. I look at somebody throwing this technique and I think, well, they know that they're supposed to fix this thing. Like they know that thing that they're doing is wrong because I know it and I've seen it for so many years, and then I have to remember, no, wait a minute, they're not a black sash. They have only been doing this for a year or two or three or 7 or 8 or 9. And then I have to remind them, this is the thing actually for you to fix right now. And then they go, okay, yeah, I got it. And they don't actually got it, but you try. And this is the process that Bruce Lee talked about. He said, when I first started practicing martial arts, a punch is just a punch and a kick is just a kick. When I practiced for years and years and I got great at it, then a punch was much more than a punch. Kick was much more than a kick. And then when I mastered it, then I recognized a punch is just a punch and a kick is just a kick. But the truth of that is that you get to that point and you recognize that this thing that is so exciting and brand new at some points, or that you recognize like has so much to it in the middle stages of your practice, this is the way to look at everything. And so when you're a baby and everything is so exciting, and then you start to get older and you think like, well, that's just that thing that I've seen so many times, hundreds, thousands of times. Like, this is why time starts to speed up. This is why as you get older, like, you know, last year seems like yesterday. And yet, when you were a kid, a year or even just a summer lasted forever. It's because everything is new and exciting. And if we really want to be able to have that kind of youthful attitude, that kind of like mindfulness and just being present in the moment, there's no better place to practice it than in the dojo. And to take the most mundane, the simplest things like your front punch that you've practiced literally since your first class and always look at it like this is something new. And this is the last thing that I'll say about it, and there's 1,000 other things that I wanted to say, but I forgot them all. But I usually get the best questions about the most basic techniques from the most senior students. We get it in Tai Chi all the time. So the people who've been here for the longest in Tai Chi, they finished the 108 and they know it. They ask me questions about the second posture. Steve, when we do stroke the bird's tail right, can you tell me about that foot, where it sets down, the angle, and the back foot, like where does it go to? They've been doing that posture for years, and they still ask about it, and it's not because they forgot about it. Maybe some of it they forgot about, but it's because they're still thinking about it like it's new, and they're still approaching it like there's something to fix. There's some greater level of awareness and detail that I can get out of this. And when you take that and you take it out into everyday life, then you've got something really amazing. You can think of everything like this. And so to really, I mean, look, like I said, honestly, you guys are probably, none of you ever going to get a black belt. Probably you at some point. It's not up to me, but at some point, you just have to let that go. But let's just pretend that you are. Pretend that you are a black sash now. And I want you to think of what that means. What kind of attitude do you have about your practice and about everything else in life? You are a black sash now. I promise you it's not one of, I know how to do that already. It's not one of, like, do I really have to do this right now? Do I really have to think about this new technique or this old technique that I've already done? It's one of excitement. It's one of, always looking at something like there's something to improve upon. And if you can place yourself in that frame of mind in practice and in everything in life, I think that you will find it's a fundamentally different experience. And I'll be honest, I don't always do that. I'm not always there. But I get there when I remember, oh yeah, I'm a black sash, and I'm supposed to be this way, so then I do it. So, you guys are, white sash, yellow sash, second degree red sash. Don't come at it from where you think you're supposed to be. You can do that sometimes, but I want you to come at it from a place of, what if I actually was this rank? What if I was really a black sash? How would I be doing this class right now? How would I be driving home right now? How would I be having this conversation with somebody right now? It's probably different. How would I be meditating right now? So when we meditate tonight, do it like a black sash. Just sit like a rock, be totally in the moment. When your mind wanders, you say, "No, I'm a black sash. I got to be completely focused right now. This is it." And I think it'll be different for you. Sit comfortably.